yeah.
know, right.
So that's interesting. So then, did you feel like that's when you really started to get a following? Then is that when you really sort of had? I mean, I know you don't like to think about it that way necessarily,
Yeah,
but it's important because that's what some of the managers would want to see is if somebody can fill a room, if somebody can keep a room happy.
Okay, I understand that.
That's kind of what was happening with you around then, right? Do you
Yeah.
feel like you were coming into your own then? Like, is that did you feel any differently?
Well, there was a little bit of friction because of the fact that a female manager, I don't want to really mention names
Okay.
or anything. I mean, I don't have anything bad to say about her. She insisted on playing what was being played on the top floor of the 1270, and I kept on saying no.
Mhm.
And she would come in that booth and say, they're going upstairs. I says, who the fuck cares if they're going upstairs? I says, the money is in the entire club. They'll be back down, okay? They're not going to stay upstairs forever. You're their favorite bartender. They're going to be down. See, they didn't understand the concept. All right, you have 3 floors. Big deal. A few of your friends went upstairs. They're in the building. They're spending money. Okay, so we got into sort of a thing. I says, no, I'm not changing the sound. I says, it's working. Look at the dance floor. Look at the dance floor.
So that's when you really started to take a stand for yourself in
Oh,
terms
well,
of what
yeah.
you were playing
Yeah.
and how you wanted to play it.
Yeah.
You had enough experience by then that you knew what you always said you knew what you were doing, but your experience is the best teacher.
Oh,
So
yeah,
by then-
absolutely. In any profession, it's
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're at the 1270 for quite a while, and you get moved to the second floor, and your format doesn't change when you move to the second
Oh,
floor.
yes, it does.
Oh, it does. Okay.
yeah,
How does it change?
It changed that the alternative is definitely left downstairs
It is.
on the first floor, and I went right into dance music, pure dance music, from R&B to high energy. To whatever was being played on the radio by Sonny, Vinny, and Ron Robin, and it worked out well.
And how long were you on the second floor for,
Oh, God.
roughly? When were these actors?
Over 10 years. Over 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
So I turned 21, and I know. I'll be careful. When I turned 21, I wasn't able. I only went to the tail end of the 1270, right before it became maximum security.
Yeah.
I remember it sort of like being at the tail end of the 12s days. So
Right.
I didn't get to hear you. And if I did hear you there, I didn't know it was you. Do you know what I mean? Like
Okay.
it wasn't really until the
Oh.
12. But when did you get? I mean, till Chaps. When did you get the inkling to open the record store? Can you talk about that in the arc? Like when did you think you wanted to do it, or why did you do it?
There's quite a jump from what we were talking about to that.
Okay, so you want to come back to it in a few?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're at Chaps for at 12, almost 10 years on that second floor doing that
Yeah.
energy.
And it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you why. Quoting the late Frankie Knuckles, he said somewhere on one of his CDs that I have, there's a moment that in the distance you hear a sound of a tambourine, okay? And then after that you hear a bongo drum. And you just get caught up in the moment, and people are coming together. And that's what happened at the 1270. Like, there was no other club in Boston that there was an entire percussion section on the banquettes across from the DJ booth. And they were the most loyal bunch of people that I've ever met. Men and women, they just came in with tambourines, bongo drums, other African drums, maracas, everything, and I mean, it was incredible.
And this was a reputation that 1270 has too, is that it was a very mixed environment at a time.
And
when,
a younger crowd.
And yeah, and men and women together. Would you say it was very mixed as far as straight and gay still, or was it still? Would you say it was primarily gay?
I'd say it was primarily gay. Yeah.
Right, but it was men and women together, which was not something that happened a lot, and hasn't happened a lot since then.
Right.
In a club environment, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what's going on now because I don't go out now, but it was always hard to support a lesbian bar.
Right.
And I think Wendy Hunt and Jackie Mack, God rest her soul, Mary Alice, I don't know if she would agree because she did play for a lesbian crowd.
Yeah.
And Tita Gray also worked for a lesbian crowd. But it was completely different than performing for the male dancers.
Yeah.
Okay? The women always thought that the DJ was or should be the human jukebox. Okay? I understood that they didn't go out as much as the men because the men are out 7 nights a week. The women maybe out once or twice a week.
Yeah.
And you know, I just couldn't deal working at a lesbian club.
Yeah. So you were never a big fan of requests, I would take it, right?
Oh, please, Mary.
You just did, no.
No.
I mean, you were lucky to work in places where you could lock a DJ booth, right? I mean.
Oh, I insisted on a door and lock.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned that from Robbie Leslie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he is a fine businessman.
Yeah.
As well as a fine DJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a little story if you have, when I was doing T-Dance a couple weeks ago, and it was a really particularly slow one in the summertime, wasn't that busy. I was kind of struggling with the crowd that was there because I was having a hard time getting into a groove and getting them into a groove. And there were a couple people who wanted to hear requests, and we have a more tolerant policy about requests there. If I can fit it in, or I try to be at least the upper half of the door is open so people come in and talk to you if they, you know. And the 2 requests that I got were for things that I had and I happened to like well enough, but both of them, when I decided to play them, did not do very well for me in the room at all. And my instinct was to not play them because but it wasn't busy enough for me to feel like I could point to a full dance floor and be like, well, I don't need your request, you know?
Yeah,
it wasn't busy enough for that. So I felt like I should be nice or whatever and give in or whatever, or try to do that for them. But both songs I played really damaged my vibe and my dance floor, and I was like, I'm not doing that again. I feel like I should have stuck to my instincts.
Yeah.
I said I'm trying, because then people get impatient and they want to know why you haven't played it yet or when you're going to, and they don't understand. You're trying to build towards something.
Yeah.
You're actually you have an idea,
Right.
and you want to build toward it.
Okay.
You know?
That's happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm there, sabotage.
Yeah, right?
Sabotage.
Well, now, okay, we're going to talk about this for a second because I feel like I sometimes am conspiratorial minded myself about things. And I thought some of the people there were doing it not to sabotage me, but I didn't feel like it had the best intentions.
I think you're allowed to say that, and
Yeah.
I will agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's still,
Water off your back.
I know. Yeah, I kind of got over it pretty quickly. But
You
I mean,
gotta
at the
get
same
over
time, I was like, oof,
Yeah.
you know?
I know. It hits you like a needle,
Yeah.
but you gotta let it go. You have to let it go.
Yeah.
Because there are people that will, I mean, you know, I remember there were instances that at Chaps, in the crowd, you know, there would be people that would always try to push my button. And they figured out how to do it by writing hello or writing a request on a matchbook cover and putting it over
The front of the
the
glass.
front of the glass, which I said, oh, if that goes on the turntable, man,
yeah.
I got a gun right where
Yeah.
my ass crack is,
Yeah.
and I'm pointing it right at you. But yeah, you get people like that,
Yeah.
you know.
Think they know better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's the human race.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, back in the beginning, in the 1970s, when the mafia, I mean, the Italian
Yeah. Family.
family,
Yeah.
whoops,
Yeah.
the Italian families ran the clubs.
Yeah.
That was the best.
Yeah.
They left you alone.
Yeah.
All they cared about
Was
was
the
the
money.
money.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you were pulling in crowds of people, and those crowds were not only dancing but drinking,
Yeah.
you were golden to
Yeah.
them.
So you're the success, the financial success of the nights that you played spoke for itself. So you really had that to point to if anybody gave you a hard time about a lot of you really were able to kind of like convincingly go your own way
Yeah.
because your nights were successful and because they were financially successful. So I mean that's probably the best evidence you can have, right, about how well you're doing, and to some degree about, you know, the direction that you're headed in and things like that.
Right. There were times that, you know, they would slap my hand at chaps because there was a time that, well, in the 1980s, I became a Billboard reporter.
Right.
Okay, along with Wendy Hunt, Dana Jacobitis, Paul Egan, Wendell Edmonds. I don't know if it was Cosmo Wyatt, but forgive me if I don't remember the names. And I mean, we got phone calls. Your job was to make sure you were home at least once a week to take phone calls from the record labels and let them know how their new promos were going.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a job because you know, you had to listen to hundreds of records that were coming in the mail every week, and whatever you could bring to the club or whatever you thought your particular customers would enjoy, you know, you'd play and you'd give the response
Mhm,
back to many of the people that worked as promo people.
Right.
And some of them were very, very nice, and some of them were not. But I remember there was one gentleman that I enjoyed talking with. He came from the UK. His name was Tony King. And he was either an A&R or he promoted for RCA Records. And he was coming to town for that particular weekend. And I was working at Chaps. And I remember Dana, they went out to dinner. That's what you usually do at first, you know, pick them up at the hotel, go out to dinner, and then bring them to the various clubs where the Billboard reporters were working. And I don't know what possessed me, or I don't even know how it was in my record bag, but I had the Rolling Stones album in my record bag with Brown Sugar on it. And I saw Tony King, because he was a tall, handsome gentleman, walking in the room with Dana, and I says, I'm gonna do it. I'm saying to myself, I always took chances. I mean, always. The particular song that I was playing had a cold ending. I think it was Oh, I don't even,
okay.
all right.
It's got a cold ending.
It had a cold ending. I put on brown sugar. Tony King, did a 360, looked exactly at me at the booth and went like this.
Uh-huh.
And the crowd went absolutely berserk.
Right. And this is well into the 80s by
This
now,
is-
right? Or
I
when
mean,
was
this
The
was-
early 90s?
No.
When
This
was this?
this was the early '80s.
Yeah, okay.
This was disco heaven.
Yeah.
And here I am pulling
Dropping
out
brown sugar.
a classic rock,
Yeah.
brown sugar.
Yeah.
Okay, and oh my God, the manager was pounding on the door, let me in, and I'm going, fuck
Yeah,
you, leave
uh-huh.
me alone,
Uh-huh.
don't bother me. Look at the dance floor.
Yeah.
Because it was quite a surprise to everybody,
Sure.
even to myself, because I didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
Okay, I mean, this is supposedly a discotheque.
Right.
You know, I hated the name disco because it was taken from discotheque.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a disco club, and here I am playing the Rolling Stones' Brown Sugar. But I wanted to get Tony King's attention, and boy, I did.
And it all goes back to that anyway. I mean, R&B and soul and all that stuff. I mean, disco, the best disco, all went back to that.
Oh yeah, and the Stones love Muddy,
Yeah.
Buddy Guy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Muddy Waters.
Yeah.
They were thriving on the blues back then, which led to the R&B, which led to the
Philadelphia.
Motown, Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You know, it stemmed out of all of that.
Yeah.
You know, but I got in trouble for playing that, and you know, I just said to myself, forget about it. You had a packed floor to it. Everybody was screaming.
Yeah.
You're going to listen to one manager?
This is an